Away, the men's basketball committee revealing its in-season top 16 overall seeds. Gonzaga, the number 1 overall seed. The other 3 teams on the one line: Auburn, Arizona, and Kansas. Last year, Gonzaga was the top overall seed when the reveal was announced. Zags advanced all the way to the national championship, but lost to fellow number 1 seed Baylor. This year, Baylor, the top 2 seed, 5th overall out of the 16 teams. Welcome to CBS Sports HQ college basketball analyst Matt Norlander. Initial thoughts when looking at the top 16 reveal?
A lot of initial thoughts here, so let's kind of run down what we've got here. First of all, with Providence getting into the field, I think that's a good sign. I talked with Tom Burnett, the selection committee chair, who you just saw on CBS. He indicated to me that net ranking, which sometimes might get a little overemphasized by us media types, it doesn't, as he said, win the day in the committee room. I think Wisconsin specifically and Providence making this top 16 reveal might be an indication, once we get to the real thing in 22 days, that we shouldn't just look at where a team is seated and ranked in the net and think that's going to guide. Now, having said that, let's talk about these 1 seeds overall, because Auburn is not the number 1 overall seed, Akeem. It's Gonzaga. Now, I thought it was going to be Auburn. I mentioned it with Gary Parrish on the Ion College Basketball Podcast, and the reason why was Gonzaga's only played 4 road games to this point and had 0 road games in the non-conference. We've heard so often over the years how important non-conference scheduling can be, not just to get in, but how you're seeded. But I think the reason why Auburn's not the number 1 overall seed is when you look at where the Tigers are slotted across the team sheet metrics, they are number 1 only in what I think might be the most valuable metric for seeding and selection, strength of record. That's where Auburn is number 1. Resume-wise, on the whole, you can really make a very convincing case that Auburn has the best resume in men's college basketball over at Gonzaga. But Gonzaga is number 1 in the net. It's number 1 in predictives. BPI, KenPom, and Sagarin. Gonzaga's number 1. I think that wound up winning the day. When I spoke with Tom Burnett, the committee chair, earlier this week, he emphasized to me that in the committee room, they are more and more, with each passing year, they are looking at how all of these metrics shape teams' resumes, and it's not just looking at just the net and how and where they line up. So strength of record and KPI, those are the metrics that are results-based. They don't have any predictive elements to them whatsoever. There are 4 others that do have predictives, and while this is a larger discussion for another time, perhaps we'll talk about it Sunday on the podcast, we get into this discussion of, is the committee getting to a place now where it is going to look at these predictive metrics and see, okay, what we are seeing from these analytics is saying this is how good a team can be, this is their ceiling, and we're going to seed accordingly, because marrying those 2 concepts, Hakeem, is it's a tight wire to walk. I think it's the right wire to walk. I don't think it should be just strictly on resume, because I think sometimes you can kind of get lost in the woods on that. But overall, the number 1 seeds don't surprise me. I saw a little bit of surprise at Kansas. I thought the 4 were easy. I thought it was just going to be Auburn, Gonzaga, Arizona, Kansas. Instead, it's Gonzaga, Auburn, Arizona, Kansas. I will also note, Tom Burnett said it was razor thin between Gonzaga, Auburn, Arizona. I think that's fair. One last note before we want to keep going. Every time we've done this midseason February reveal, every time 3 of the teams on the one line on this day were on the one line when we got to Selection Sunday. That would have probably been true in 2020 because the projection still had that. And then every time except the first time we did it, one of these 1 seeds on this day won the national championship.
So you think this is a pretty accurate exercise?
I do think it's an accurate exercise, and I think it's informative. I also think it's good that we are only doing this once. I don't like how college football does it. It's too much. You almost spoil the batch there. That the committee almost sets themselves up for failure. We are 22 days out from Selection Sunday at this point. Let's take a look at this whole field. I think this is pretty fair. Baylor at 5 might surprise some people. I'm not all that shocked by that. I thought Baylor was going to be 6 overall. And I thought this was going to be the exact teams on the 2 line, the exact teams on the 1 line. I kind of thought we were going to swap out Illinois on the 3, and I had a hunch they might go Wisconsin there. You can see the narrow difference, 12 versus 13 with those 2 teams. But overall, there's not a glaring surprise, any reason to really, write home about. I think it's a good sign that Providence is in this, though. Providence is a team right now. Let me just read you off their metrics right now. Providence is 8th right now in strength of record and 9th in KPI. Those are the results-based metrics. But everything else that has a predictive element, get this. Providence is 29th in the net, 39th in BPI, 31st in Sagarin, and they are 45th in KenPom. So Providence has become this team, and I was just there this week. I watched them lose close at home against Villanova. Providence is a team where it's only got 3 losses. The record is very good, but it has suffered some 2 of his 3 losses have been in blowout fashion, and then some of the wins it's won close against inferior teams. So getting our arms around the Friars has been something of a difficult task. At a certain point, though, no matter what the predictives say, this is why I think this is an important exercise and why humans being in the room actually has value, because I think they are fairly seeding the Friars right now. Gaudy record. In a normal year, you'd say a team from a power conference that's won 21 of its 24 or 22 of its 25 games, that team should be a 1 seed, a 2 seed, maybe a 3 seed at this point in the season. But if you really step back and look at the metrics, there's a nice balance there. Providence should be on the 4 line. That was a nice move by the committee.
All right, last year, 5 teams moved into a top 4 seed after missing the in-season top 16. Arkansas, Kansas, Florida State, Purdue, and Oklahoma State. Who's a team you think that missed the top 16 that will perhaps be a top 4 seed come Selection Sunday?
Let's look at what we got here, because we had Alabama, Houston, and Ohio State. Those are the teams that narrowly missed. I'm going Ohio State from that group. That's the team that's most likely, in my opinion, plays in a really good league, the Big Ten. It's got a top 3, top 5 candidate for National Player of the Year, E.J. Liddell. Plenty of opportunities ahead of it. Houston, it's playing in the American. There aren't a lot of quad 1 opportunities. Not that it's unthinkable. If Houston were to run the table, Houston will be a top 4 seed. I'm highly confident of that. But is that actually likely? It doesn't have 2 of its 4 best players for the rest of the season due to injury. And then when you look at Alabama, arguably the most erratic resume in the sport, other than Rutgers, which is suddenly welcome to the discussion. Rutgers here. So I don't know. Alabama, listen, it's going to have those opportunities in the SEC as well. And it's got high-end wins. It's defeated Gonzaga. It's defeated Houston. It's defeated Baylor, which is on the 5 line. There's actually a lot of intriguing results we've got. And we've got close to 750 regular season games in men's college basketball before we get to postseason play. But if you're asking me what one team, I'm going to say it's probably Ohio State. That's the most likely candidate to jump up. And there will be jump ups. Let's be clear about this. What we're seeing right now, this is not going to be the top 16 when we get to Selection Sunday. There's too much that's going to happen. You will see teams that'll tumble from the 2 line, maybe down to the 3 or the 4. Teams on the 3 line that'll tumble to the 4, the 5, maybe the 6. I want to give you a second one as well. I think another team that could have a shot here, if Arkansas can get it done, they play Tennessee on Saturday. They go at Florida, home to Kentucky, home to LSU, at Tennessee. Arkansas at 20-6 right now. It's got a couple of damaging losses, but there's enough there that they could make. That's like a true sleeper. Sure. You want a team that's got some problems to its resume. The Hogs. We'll see what they do against Tennessee. I kind of think the Vols might have a decent shot there. But Arkansas is another team with a good record that could bump up. Broadly speaking, Hakeem, I think we'll see at least 2, more likely though, 3 or 4 teams that are not in this reveal now that are going to be on that 4 line come Selection Sunday.
Well, Arkansas was one of those teams last year. Perhaps they'll be one of those teams again this year. Again, Selection Sunday, 22 days away. Matt Norlander here on CBS Sports HQ. And for more from Matt, join him and his co-host Gary Parrish on the Eye on College Basketball podcast, delivering commentary, reporting, and insider information as they break down all the big storylines in college hoops. Of course, they'll have reaction to the in-season top 16 reveal. The Eye on College Basketball podcast. Download and subscribe today.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.